Your car isn't safe anymore. Almost every single car built in the last 10 years is secretly spying on everything you do. How you drive, where you drive, who you drive with. And in the case of some cars, they're collecting a lot more than just that. And if stealing that information for themselves wasn't enough, most of these car makers sell all of your private data to basically anyone who'll flash some cash at them. Because, well, why should they care about your privacy when exploiting you is making them hundreds of billions of dollars? All while your information ends up online for anyone to access and your insurance rates go up. So today I'm going to show you if your car is spying on you, what exactly they're taking, and what you can do to stop it. Now, first things first, who the heck is doing this sort of shady stuff? Well, sadly, it's everyone. And I mean literally everyone. Pretty much every car brand sold in North America and Europe. I'm talking Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Subaru, Nissan, Volkswagen, BMW, Audi, Hyundai, Dacia, Renault, and I'm sure you can guess this one, Tesla. Every single one of these car brands makes sure that their cars are collecting data about you from the moment you buy that car to the moment, well, for some of you, that moment may have never stopped, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. By now, half of you are outraged, ready to take the bus to the nearest dealership and hogtie the general manager, but the other half of you are saying, well, who cares? My phone is already listening to everything I say and serving me targeted ads for hemorrhoid cream, and well, you're right, and also, I'm sorry. But here's the thing. Your phones give you some level of control over what data you give and to who. It's not much, if I'm being honest, but at least you have options like using a private DNS or even switching to a privacy-centric software like Graphene OS, for example. But in your car, well, it's not really quite that simple. When you buy your car and sign that stupidly long purchase agreement, or when you spam "I agree" on your car's infotainment screen to get to your navigation, oftentimes you're agreeing to an unlimited amount of spyware. Cars these days not only track the basics, your name, your address, your date of birth, but depending on the brand, they're looking for exact location, driving habits and style, social security numbers, employee IDs, health information, fingerprints, facial recognition data, ancestry, sexual orientation, religion, and they do that not only with the sensors inside the car itself, obviously, but also with the connected apps. Yes, the companion app that you install on your phone to lock and unlock your car or see when's my next service is actually a piece of corporate spyware designed by car makers to maximize how much data they can mine about you and your family. And well, it's a lot of data. Kia goes so far as to say they can collect data on your sex life, which to be fair, if you're driving a Kia, but it's more than just that. Cars nowadays have cameras and microphones dotted all around the car, and many of those license agreements that you didn't read and said yes to state that they can take those recordings and keep it all for themselves. Actually, that's a lie. They don't exactly keep it for themselves. You see, many modern cars have a SIM card in a modem buried somewhere that is constantly beaming all this information back to the mothership, where the car manufacturers store it in their servers. And then about 90% of these car makers go on to sell this information to anyone that wants it. Data brokers, advertising agencies, insurance companies, you name it. And McKinsey Global, an economic research firm, estimated that by 2030, the auto industry will be making up to $400 billion every year just from selling your sweet data. But then what about the other 10%, the car brands that don't sell your data? The ones that collect your information, yes, but instead use it to understand the customer. The ones that use it to make the cars better, more tailored to us. It sounds like a win-win for everyone involved, right? Yeah, no. In April of 2023, Reuters was told by numerous Tesla employees that they would regularly take videos from Tesla camera feeds and share them with their coworkers in the company chat. Yes, the video of you busting your butt on an icy driveway trying to go to work was the most popular video on Tesla's Slack. Heck, Elon himself might have seen it. And that's actually kind of funny. But you know what isn't? The videos that Tesla employees shared of people's personal belongings, videos with nudity, and even videos of people's children. Yes, Tesla employees potentially watched and shared videos of your kids without you knowing about it. And the worst part is, technically, you agreed to them having that video. Now, Tesla employees shouldn't have been sharing them, and US lawmakers opened an investigation into Tesla for this insane breach of privacy, not to mention the class action lawsuit against Tesla that came after. But here's the thing, why should Tesla, or anyone else for that matter, have videos like that in the first place? Your car should be a safe place for you and your family, not a wiretap for car manufacturers. But see, cameras in cars are kind of useful. Dash cams are a great investment for making sure that you're covered in the event of an accident. But instead of trusting some car manufacturers to store those recordings in a server somewhere, you could use our sponsor, REDTIGER, to have peace of mind and full control over your data. REDTIGER's F77 dash cam system is a dual 4K camera system with both front and rear 16 megapixel Sony sensors. It's high res, high frame rate, and can clearly capture license plates in the day or night thanks to its night vision 2.0 and HDR. And here's the thing, it records to its internal 128 gigabyte eMMC memory, not on some cloud somewhere where Jeff Bezos can see it. So recordings are reliable and stable with no video dropout in the event of a harsh accident like with some SD cards. And not to say that it doesn't have fast 5.8 gigahertz Wi-Fi and the REDTIGER companion app if you want to quickly download 4K recordings to your phone. Of course, if you're old-fashioned, you can always just slap it in an SD card and pull your recordings that way. I have it installed with their hardwire kit, and thanks to its built-in G sensor, you can always make sure that if any accident or incident happens, you're covered. You can get your own REDTIGER F77 dashcam system at our link in the description and have peace of mind, something that car manufacturers like Tesla can't really give you. Although, I should be fair, it's not just Tesla. In May of 2023, Toyota themselves admitted that over 2 million Toyota and Lexus users had their location data completely exposed with no security for 10 years. Just this month, literally a few weeks ago, a Volkswagen subsidiary was found to have leaked the personal data of nearly 800,000 drivers. And this one really hurts. General Motors was sued last year because they were selling your driving data to insurance companies who were then using that data to justify increasing your insurance premiums. Yes, your data, which you are giving away for free, is being used to make you pay more for insurance. Everyone in the world right now is arguing about TikTok and Facebook, and while those apps certainly need to have their data collection looked at, we are forgetting about the one device that we also use every day, a device that we trust to keep us safe while navigating this crazy world. And while the cars themselves might be much safer than they ever have been with cameras and radar systems, it seems like we just traded one type of safety for another one. And all right, you're probably pissed off now. You're thinking, it ain't right what they're doing. How the heck are they getting away with this? Well, it's quite simple, really. Nobody has ever told them they can't do it. In the United States, at least, there is no data privacy law or guidelines that exist at the federal level. There are 20 or so states that have enacted their own data privacy legislation, with the California Privacy Rights Act being the most pro-consumer law that we have. And well, that law gives Californians 5 rights. The right to know, the right to delete, the right to opt out, the right to non-discrimination, which are all fairly self-explanatory, and the right to initiate a private cause of action, aka the right to get a lawyer to roll some heads when your data gets leaked. And those things are important. They should be fundamental rights in this day and age. But here's the thing, for the vast majority of Americans, you've got nothing. And the reason for that is mostly that your elected officials just don't care. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of data privacy too much, but from the outside, it really does seem like a bipartisan issue. Both sides of the aisle raise their right hands and say that people have a right to privacy, and then with their left hands, they take bribes, lobby money, to look the other way. Now, everybody knows, Meta has spent over $18 million lobbying politicians last year, but what about GM, who spent $10.5 million, or Toyota, who spent about $5 million, or Hyundai, who spent $1.7 million. You see, car manufacturers, like every corporation, want laws on the books that make sure that their stockholders are making as much money as possible. And the millions they spend on politicians is peanuts compared to the hundreds of billions they make from selling your private data. Now, it's not like you don't have options. Most car makers have the option to opt out of most of, if not all, data collection. Usually it's buried in some menu somewhere, but you can look up how to find it and do it right now. But for a lot of cars, there's a catch. When you opt out of their data collection, you also opt out of some of your car's functionality. Tesla, again, for example, lets you opt out but puts up a big warning that says this may result in your vehicle suffering from reduced functionality, serious damage, or inoperability. Serious damage? From Elon Musk not having access to videos of me and my family? Yeah. Right. Basically, every single one of these companies makes it scary, difficult, or borderline impossible for you to own and operate your car while not beaming details of your breakfast to every data broker within a 1,000-mile radius. And well, that sucks. But maybe that's just how the world works now. Well, actually no. It's not. It turns out there are plenty of places that have data protection laws on the books that prevent tech companies, app developers, and yes, car manufacturers from collecting and selling all of your data. In the EU, the General Data Protection Regulation was passed in 2018, and it forces companies to not only limit their personal data collection to the minimum of what is required to provide a service, but also enforces the confidentiality of that data and prohibits companies from selling it without specific, unambiguous consent from that person. It's amazing, isn't it, when there are laws that aren't written specifically for trillion-dollar companies to make more money exploiting people? Not that we would know, because the United States is truly one of the worst places on earth for data privacy. Even China, yes, the country that every politician has constantly been yelling about, has better consumer data protections than the US. The Personal Information Protection Law in China requires explicit consent for data collection and allows Chinese citizens to view, edit, delete, or restrict that data. So why, oh why, have we been unable to do at least that much here in the States? Well, in 2022, the American Data Privacy Protection Act was introduced in the House, and well, it got pushback. Some from other politicians about specifics in the actual legislation, but mostly from big tech. Companies like Meta and Google earn over 80% of their revenue from online ads, and your data is an integral part to making those ads work. And even though car companies might be making a fraction of that, it's still enough for them to make sure that bills like this don't pass. But then, in April of last year, a bipartisan committee introduced the American Privacy Rights Act, and while it hasn't even been finalized, it still proposes a massive overhaul of data privacy at the federal level, with regular people like you or I having way more control over what data companies can collect and our ability to delete or entirely restrict that data. But then, in June of last year, the law was revised to have weaker enforcement and forego restrictions on AI and algorithms, and well, it kind of stalled out from there. So then, what does the future look like for data privacy in cars? Well, if I'm being totally honest, it's not great. Right now, there just aren't any widespread protections for me or you living in the United States, and considering our government's track record, it might be a while before we get anything with some teeth to it, especially when companies are making the kind of money that begins with a B. But there is still hope, and that hope starts with education. Don't let a man like me with an addiction to JDM rust buckets tell you what car brands to trust. Do your own research. The more we understand about data collection in our cars, and let's face it, all of our devices, then the better we can protect ourselves. Take the time to learn what specific data your car collects. Dive into its settings, read the privacy policy. Yeah, it's boring and tedious to look over, but that's by design. Or better yet, use tools like privacy4cars.com and Mozilla Foundation's research to figure out how to opt out of data collection where you see fit. And depending on what state you live in, even delete the data that was already collected. And when it's time to buy your next car, make an informed purchase. Cars these days are all pretty good. They all go fast, they all feel comfortable, and they're all safer than the last model. So when it comes down to choosing between your favorites, maybe take a look at what they're doing to protect your privacy, and let that help you make your final decision. Because if automakers realize that poor privacy practices are costing them sales, then you better believe that they'll start paying attention. All that to say, we live in an unprecedented time where technology has outpaced the rules that were meant to protect us. Even though that feels a bit dystopian, looking at other countries, you can see there's still hope for us yet. Lobby money is strong, and the fight won't be easy or quick, but we as consumers need to keep the pressure on. Gently harass your elected leaders, hold them accountable, and ask for better protections against data collection. And, well, if all else fails, just be like me and drive an old jalopy. The only data my LS430 collects is 6 preset radio stations. If you like old jalopies, by the way, you'll love our video on the history of Aston Martin over here, who have spent the last 100 years actually focused on making good cars rather than screwing over their customers, although I should probably look at their privacy policy before I say anything about that. Thanks for watching.